Finds that open. Touchdown. The run from Tua Tagovailoa. Touchdown. He's going deep. He's got it for a touchdown. He's in. Touchdown. Beautiful day to be a Dolphin fan. Let's go!
All right, huddle up, huddle up. We're going to crank these engines up on one. All right? Wait, 80. Wait, 80, set. Drivers, start your engines.
This is the Finish Line.
I coached some great offensive linemen in the past. Larry Little, Dwight Stevenson, Jim Langer, all Hall of Famers, and Richmond Webb belongs to that same group.
Here are your hosts, legendary Miami Dolphins left tackle Richmond Webb, Reason, and Mr. BallGame.
What is good, Fin Nation? What's good? It's your boy Reason, and we are back here for another one. As due to the absence of the triple OG Mr. BallGame, who's slacking on his mackin' and slipping on his pimpin'. Because of that, my homie Richmond has been downgraded from Richmond Webb to special guest. Oh, and look at this. Speak of the devil, and he arrives in style.
Man, this ain't the BET Awards, man. What's up with you, bro?
Come on, man. Come on. You started at Richmond. You said last week people were looking for me, man. So I gotta make sure whenever I show up for the folk, man, I look the part, bro.
I was about to walk on stage like Will Smith, but I forgot you ain't Chris Rock, so I turned around and sat back down. So, how you doing today, brother?
I'm good, man. Blessed and highly favored, man. How y'all?
We good. I think we good. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. But yeah, I'm gonna turn it back over to Reason. I kind of jumped in, let him.
Oh no, do your thing.
Start it off like he do. So yeah, he rocking that fresh hat over there. I need to get that lid off top of his head. Yeah, he looking player over there.
Yeah. Do it. Listen, I mean, see, this is, I already see in the chat here people are talking about Tua goes through his progressions. I mean, what are we talking about right now? And Tyreek, we'll get into Tyreek here, but I'll give y'all a hint, a reason why I ain't worried about Tyreek being out. Go watch the Browns game last year. Tua Tagovailoa targeted like 10 different people, so I'm not worried. Tyreek only had like 60 yards that game, and we blew the Cleveland Browns out. So I'm not worried. Y'all need to relax. So let's get into this. Gentlemen, we're coming off the second loss of the season. Richmond, how are you feeling? Because, I mean, the fan base had hyped this up that it was almost like the end-all, be-all. The Dolphins battled injuries and battled bad calls and non-calls. And that game really felt winnable if the refs would have called that thing down the line. How are you feeling coming off that second loss of the season, Richmond?
It was one of those games, and I think you just spelled out everything. You're not going to get every call, but when it's that lopsided, and a lot of those calls were just obvious. When they're not called, it's like, as a player, it's tough, but at the same time, as a player, you got to try to stay focused and say, hey, we can only control what we can control. But, that either stopped a lot of drives for the Dolphins, or that helped continue drives for the Eagles. So it was like, you can beat 11, but when you playing against, you can say 12, or if it's a 5-man group, you can say 16. It's hard to beat the 12, the 11 you got to line up against, and then, battle with the refs when you're not getting the calls. And it was, even Chris Collinsworth, I think the first one that started off was they called the roughing the passer on Wilkins, and they reviewed it, and they was like, come on. So it's like it just went downhill from that, and some of them was blatant. I think it was either Cotton or Wynn. The defensive lineman was bull rushing him, and his helmet came off, and the ref and the other guys sitting there.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, what's up?
Here, I'll break it down for you. Do you remember it was Jalen Carter? Do you remember Deacon Jones?
Yep.
You remember Deacon Jones had the hand slap that was banned?
Mm-hmm.
That's what he did. If you go back and watch the All-22, it was on the All-22. If you saw it, I sent you the flash pro. Jalen Carter smacks him in the side of the helmet, and then he drives with his other hand up under the face mask, and basically. So I'm like, first move is banned, second move's illegal, and we don't get a flag for either one.
Yeah, and I'm saying at least with the helmet coming off, you should get that one. Even if you missed the head slap, it was just. And he turned around and looked, and his helmet's on the ground, and they looked like, it was.
And they missed 4 total DPIs. The early one on Slay on Barrios. But then if you look at it from pass play 26 to pass play 33, in 7 plays, there were 3 DPIs they missed. They missed the one over the middle where they horse collared Tyreek. There's literally a clear still shot of him being horse collared over the middle right as the ball's about to get there. They missed the one on Mostert, which was a clear. At worst was a holding. At minimum was a holding. At worst was a DPI. And then they missed the face mask DPI on Cedric. Like, I'm sorry, man. I never say this, but the fix was in. Like, that's what you're telling me. I don't know what anyone could tell me here,
Yeah, the only thing, and it's probably still the same way, is you can turn in a sheet to the league office or something about the bad. They review them, and if you get enough bad reviews, I think they eventually replace you, whatever. And you're talking about the DPIs, but I even saw, and I'm sure y'all saw it too, but Philly's offensive line almost tackled a couple.
How many times the tackles were false starting?
Well, I seen them do that, and I was even, I was on Twitter, so I seen BallGame tweet a couple times. I just fell out laughing because I was like, but I think Jason Phillips beat a guy inside, and he like wrapped. I was like, man, they letting them get away with some serious stuff here. I just said, but it is what it is. But like I said after the game, we're 5-2. It's not the end of the world. The thing that concerns me is, and hopefully we get Toronto Armstead and Connor Williams back, but to have 3 backups playing and you start an offensive line, people can say what they want to, and I take my hat off to the guys that stepping up and meeting the challenge. But, that's a drop-off, and you got to win in the trenches and this and that, and those guys are fighting and playing hard as they can. But I'll be much happier when we get that. And then we got some work to do, but I'm good. I just want to start seeing, like Ramsey, I think we'll get X back, and then we start getting some offensive linemen back. We get A-Chain. It's just we've had a lot of injuries, and I don't think people are accounting for that when they judge us, because I was even hearing some people say, oh, we frauds or this and that. And I was like, let me turn off these sports analyst shows because all they're going to do is piss me off. But other than that, I'm good. I'm going to give it over to BallGame. I've been ranting for a little bit. So how you doing, Mr. BallGame?
I'm good, man. So when we're talking in regards to Sunday's game, man, for me, we want to take a loss, right? And I think across the board, when I look back over what actually truly transpired and how egregious a lot of the calls, the amount of difference in the calls, man, I just chalk it up that, there's going to always be another level of hate that we just going to have to be able to play through and just deal with, because some of those calls, you don't even have to be the savviest of football player to understand that most of those things should have been called if the game was fairly officiated, and it wasn't. But, to people on the outside, they'll say you're making excuses because a Philly fan would tell you, "Oh, well, they were just more physical and they were just more tough than you." But there is a line. There's a reason why you have rules in the game, and when the rules are broken, you're supposed to be, penalized for those things. And I've never, in a history of football, in terms of what I know the game to be, ever seen a team play a perfect game. But when you go through an entire 60-minute game with no penalties at all, that tells me that they're thinking, Philly is perfect. So what do you do with that? You go back to the drawing board and you say, you know what? They're in the NFC. We're not gonna worry about it. It's one loss. We're 5-2. We just got to handle the rest of our business down the stretch and then be okay. In addition to that, I look at what we were without in terms of players and things of that nature. So we went in there undermanned, right, against the current NFC champions, and still for a vast majority of the game went blow for blow with them and punched them in the face. They jumped out on us, but we reeled them back in to at least 7 points. And then, had it not been for a lot of those calls that weren't that a lot of the defensive pass interferences and things of that nature, I think the game would have been a whole lot more different. But kind of is what it is at this point. You go ahead and put it behind you. You don't roll around in it. As Dolphins fans, you got to know the NFL is not designed around promoting us. They've already given us our spot in history at this point, with our team being the only one that went undefeated. So anything remotely close to that we try to go out and do at this point, they already picked their golden boys too. You got to have one for the NFC and you got to have one for the AFC. Patrick Mahomes is that guy, unfortunately, and there's a couple of guys that they have on the stage next to him. Tua's not one of those guys yet, so this Dolphins team got to rally around each other and just say, you know what, forget what they think about us. We got to go out and prove it and make them believe in us. And as long as they rally to each other instead of rallying individually on their own, we'll be fine. Let the game be the game. Let Mike and the rest of the staff deal with the officiating, and let them go ahead and figure out what those guys need to have done to them, because Sunday night was completely just horseshit, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna say it for lack of a better word, just horseshit. And then move on to this week. Patriots. It's a more important game. It's a division game. We need to continue the trend that we've had of keeping Belichick with our foot on his neck, because if we let this guy get loose, he'll be a problem down the stretch. They've beaten some teams that I didn't think they would beat, and they're still a formidable opponent, even if they don't have all of the key marquee players that most people covet. They still got a really, really great coach over there. I mean, the guy's going to be a Hall of Fame coach, first ballot. So got to take that into consideration. But it is what it is at this point, man. You can't cry over spilled milk. I think for being where we were in terms of personnel, I think we did a hell of a job. But it just sucks to get robbed like that. So.
I see someone in the chat basically saying there were tons of teams called last year with no penalties. And what do we think that, we paid off, that the refs and the commissioner paid off? Did Tim Donaghy, the NBA ref who got caught fixing games, did he get paid off by teams in the NBA commissioner? No, he didn't. Okay. That's number one. Number two, only out of 1,360 games played in the last 5 years, that was just the fourth time a team was called for 0 penalties. So no, there weren't a bunch of games last year where teams had 0 penalties. And I'll go even further. That was only the second time in NFL history that one team finished with 0 penalties and another team finished with 10 plus penalties. All right. The only other time was December 1st, 2019, Chiefs and Raiders. Chiefs were the ones who got 0 penalties and they won 40-9. Like, know what you're talking about before you just start saying, oh, that happens all the time. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. Okay? We got an NFL legend up here who's way more experienced than any of us, and ask him if he's seen that a lot before in his life. Richmond, how many times have you seen that before? What you saw on Sunday?
Yeah, it's typically not that lopsided. Like you say, somebody's, whether it's an offside or whatever, even if they miss blatant calls,
you get a makeup call. You usually get a makeup call, man. It's in every sport. It's in hockey.
Yeah.
It's in football. You have even in basketball with fouls. You will usually get a makeup call if a crew realizes they screwed up. Happens all the time in every sport. We didn't even get blatant makeup calls.
It's bad.
Like, so stop acting like this this was an anomaly, what we saw. Stop acting like this. Stop trying to normalize this because y'all got agendas and narratives. And y'all don't know ball at the end of the day, too. Because y'all never actually watched the game or studied the game. Because if you had, you would know something was up. Stop right now. I guess ignorance is bliss for people who don't know what they're talking about, though. Shout out to Knight. He says, I feel the nails driving in to the coffin one by one. Then he says, I'm worried because of the line injured on top. Shout out to 1017 man. He just gifted 5 memberships to Finside the NFL throughout the chat. So I appreciate all of y'all for donating. Over 300 of you in the room. Please smash the like button. Subscribe if you're new. Let's get into it. Let's get into what Knight was kind of alluding to there. It all kind of started off with this. It was this little excerpt from Tua's little presser today that had eyebrows raised and ears percolate. And it was when he said, I don't think anyone can emulate what Tyreek does on the field. His speed, his cuts in and out of breaks. I don't think there's anyone that can emulate him. He's in his own league. He's one of a kind. But needless to say, I think people forget about the things Jalen Waddle can do. The things that he already has done for our team since his rookie year. And there's a lot of other guys, and I think you can't sleep on. If we couldn't have Tyreek, that would be tough, but the show goes on. You've got to continue to play, and somewhere down the line, we're going to get Tyreek back. And that somewhere down the line is what had everyone going, okay, what's going on here? What's happening? What's the deal? And we have now learned that it looked like the final offensive play for the Dolphins. Tyreek hurt his hip, and he did not practice today. And that's how the question arose. Now, I look at it this way. You know, I brought it up earlier, right? The Browns-Dolphins game last year, November 13th, 2022. Almost about, we're 3 weeks from a year to the date almost. Mm-hmm. If you remember that game, ladies and gentlemen, Tua Tagovailoa was 25 of 32 for 285 yards and 3 touchdowns, and the Dolphins won 39-17. You guys remember that game?
I do.
Now, if you also remember that game, let me read it out to all y'all. There were 26 receptions. Okay, Jalen Waddle had 4. Trent Sherfield had 4. Alec Ingold had 4. Tyreek Hill had 5. Gesicki had 2. Jeff Wilson had 2. Raheem Mostert had 4. Cedric Wilson had 1. The leading receivers were Jalen Waddle and Trent Sherfield with 66 and 63 yards respectively. Alec Ingold had more yards than Tyreek Hill that game. And the Miami Dolphins won it, handled it. They TCB. They took care of business. So I'm not overly worried. We got Bears. Hey, and maybe we get Chase Claypool a little bit more involved here. But obviously this is a big blow. I mean, the guy's on pace for over like 2,100 yards right now. Let's start with you, Richmond. You played with some damn fine receivers in your time with Marino. You were there when Irving Fryer was there for that short stint, weren't you?
I was. Yes, I was.
Okay, so who is fantastic in Philadelphia. What do you think about this? Because I think this is going to be made to be a bigger deal, and this is what I think about this. I'm going to segue you here, if I will. He's going to be one of many guys I think we're going to talk about tonight. I think the idea is this. I think, from what I understand, Armstead, Hill, possibly Connor Williams, Ramsey, and X are all going to be back for that Chiefs game. That's what I'm being led to believe right now, because that's the money game they see. They think they can beat the Patriots down a few men. What are your thoughts on Tyreek Hill being out this week? Because, you saw Knight. It feels like – I get it. It feels like it's one thing piling on top of each other. The word that I'm getting right now is it doesn't look good for Wynn for the rest of the year. Don't know what's going to happen there, but it's not looking good right now. Where are you at right now with this Tyreek Hill injury? Because this is also a guy who never gets hurt, Richmond.
Yeah.
And sure enough, he is.
And I think he's definitely one of the leaders on this team. Like you say, the way he works, the way he plays, practice, game, it doesn't matter. He brings a lot of energy to the table. He has that attitude that I think you brought up a great point about the Cleveland game. The thing is to go through your progressions and spread the ball around. You hit who's open. You don't lock in on the receiver and says, "Oh, I got to feed the ball to Tyreek to get him, over 2,000 yards." If it happens, it happens. But you just run the offense the way you're supposed to. And in a game like that, that's why you had so many receivers eat in one game. For you throw the ball 26 times and you got a guy 4 here, 4, 5 here, because if one guy's getting 10 catches or whatever, defenses are going to start trying to shut that guy down because they're going to say, okay, they keep going to him, this and that, blah, blah, blah. You're gonna make adjustments. But when you spread the ball around, you don't know where it's going or this and that. So I think, like you said, will he be missed? I think so, but I think his guys got to step up. And it's just like, when Teron Armstead went down, guys stepped up, or when Connor went down, Liam, you got to be the next man up. You got to be, hey, I got to go in here and I don't want to be the weak link. That's what you got to be as a player, but you can't be in the mindset, oh, we're not going to have him this week, because now you're going into a defeated mentality where even before you play the game, things are not going to go the way because you don't believe in yourself, or you don't believe that you can get it done without a person, and you just can't go into the game like that. You still got to go in there and say, hey, are we going to miss him? Yes, but at the same time, we still got to go out here and perform. And the good thing is that game is at home in Miami. We had a home crowd. We shouldn't have any issues as far as, people hearing the snap count and stuff like that. So I think this is a winnable game. So I feel good about it.
I mean, to be honest with you, I'd be more worried about where Mozart's at right now, not practicing with an ankle, because we're already down Achan, right? We got more dogs left at that position. Cedric Wilson's emerging a little bit. We got Claypool. We got Waddle. We got Barrett. We got dogs left at that position. Right now, that running back room is getting real thin. Where are you at with this Tyreek Hill injury ball game?
I think across the board, they constructed the team first off to be able to. That room is probably the strongest room that we have in terms of depth and guys that can go out and get it done. So it's unfortunate that he is dinged up, but I believe in the room. I believe that they went and got Claypool for a reason. If anybody can get him to be a solid contributor to what's going on in this offense, it'll be Mike McDaniel. And the way we go about distributing the ball, I think that's going to play into the strengths of Tua and the pass catchers that we have. Yes, Tyreek is dynamic. Everybody knows that, know what he brings to the table. But I think, like you said, people forget that Waddle is still a dude too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Cedric, prior to, has been in positions where he had to be leaned up on. He stepped up and did great things for us as well.
Yep.
And I think Claypool is hungry. He needs an opportunity. But Barrios has solidly been a contributor in all facets of the offense and special teams. So those are things those 4 guys right there that you can lean on in the absence of Tyreek, and I don't think really miss a beat. So I'm not overly concerned about it. I just want to know how long he's going to be out. But it's okay for him as a veteran to be cautious and take precautions to ensure that whatever's nagging him doesn't last long term. I'm okay with that. I think we can beat the Patriots without him. Tua's efficient enough and smart enough to be able to know where he's got to go with the ball and things of that nature. And he's proven that time and time again against Bill. So not having Tyreek doesn't really concern me too much, to be honest with you.
A01012 just sending a few bucks as thanks. Also, he thinks David Long is emerging. Knight says my worry is mostly because Waddle is hurt. And then Bobby Evans says, Richmond, love you, man. Thanks for all you did and continue to do for Fin Nation. Question: when you were playing, how did you personally handle the outside noise, specifically the negative noise? You're muted, brother.
Not bad. Oh, yeah, I think the way I know how I did it. I didn't really read the paper. I didn't really listen to sports shows and this and that because typically back then, when when we were playing, the Dolphins would start out hot, and then we would lose a game or two, and then the whole media would just turn on us and this and that. And so rather than reading all that negative stuff and people giving their opinion about, this is what I think, I just never read the paper, and I would do interviews if they asked me questions in the locker room, but as far as reading that I just never did, because once you get it in your mindset, you don't want to do that because it'll piss you off. You have the emotional swings, this and that. So I think after my rookie year, maybe my second year, I stopped reading the paper. Very rarely would I look at the newspaper because I just didn't want to get up in there because I already knew how it worked. Yeah. Miami is one of those places that they'll love you for a minute, but once it turns, the media turns on you and everything. And once I figured that out, I say, I'll wait till the off season and start following something else.
Gentlemen, look at this. Jalen Ramsey back at practice today. He later took reps with the starting defense in 7-on-7 drills, doing some cuts and making turns in open space. I mean, the movement looks like it's back, gentlemen. And, oh, boy, we could go from being like, what the hell are we going to do back there, to Needham, X, and Ramsey all back at once. Needham, I know, is going to be back at least for the KC game, but
that's not an easy drill. Right there, what he's doing right there, that's not easy.
I heard he's pushing to be back. He's pushing them because I know the target was the Chiefs game, and he's pushing them to come back this weekend. So
he's trying to make sure that
what do you think, BallGame?
Be able to take
yeah, you get him ready for that game, right? He wants to get ramped up for the Chiefs game, right? That's what it sounds like to me, right?
Yeah. I mean, these players know without a shadow of a doubt who the NFL deems as the front runner. So if you got a shot at them, right, to go ahead and stake your claim and make it known that you know what I'm saying, you the next dog up and that you ready to knock them off the top of the hill, then it's every man that we got on deck available. And I listen, man, the only person that knows his body the best is him. So if he feels like he can go out there and be able to be a solid, solidified version of himself, then I'm not at any point going to put no restrictions on that man. I'm going to let him go do his thing. Because at the end of the day, he is who he is, and I don't think he would put himself in a position. I do know this about Jalen from the time that I met him when he was at FSU. Jalen's not going to go out and do anything to put himself in a position to have a setback. Jalen want to always stay at the top of his game.
Or look bad.
Definitely. He's not going to do that. So, I believe if the man said he's ready, like Mike said, we're going to monitor it. But, they're not going to stop him from being on the field if he passes all their checks, which I believe he will. Let him have at it, man. You got him for a reason, and this is a great time for him to come in. The Chiefs game will be perfect, There you go. But I don't. You have to take Kelsey, because really, if you just eliminate Kelsey from the game plan, they're gonna struggle on offense. Like real talk. Let's be honest. Like me personally, I believe Kelsey is the MVP for the Kansas City Chiefs, not Patrick Mahomes, because. It's
Kelsey or Taylor.
In fact, if you go back and look at the statistics, he hasn't.
Kelsey or Taylor.
Right. He hasn't. When Kelsey's not available, they don't win.
Yeah.
And tight end, like Kansas City, is the truest to the old mantra that I've ever seen. The tight end is a quarterback's best friend.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever Pat get in trouble, Kelsey is a guy that he finds. That guy always finds a way to bail him out. So, when I watched him running around like a chicken with his head cut off against Detroit, and Kelsey wasn't there to bail him out. They lost that game. So, let's get Ramsey back. Go ahead and eliminate Valdez-Scantling. Exculpate Rice and eliminate him, and then we just double up Kelsey, and then it's a wrap for them.
Can I be honest with you though? Like, hey, maybe he likes the bag or whatever, but that chick does absolutely zero for me, bro. Does absolutely zero. Okay,
I don't get it. I don't get it
at all, man.
Easy.
I don't know what's different when you turn around, her or a piece of cardboard. You know what I mean?
Don't do that.
All
Don't
right,
do
let's
that.
keep it rolling. All right. So guys, I haven't heard your thoughts on it, but we got Hard Knocks coming in now, in season, and it's going to be going until the season ends. And Tua was asked about it today. This is what he said. He doesn't seem overly thrilled or happy, to say the least. And we should have figured this because he was asked to do that QB show and he said no. And anyways, this is what he said.
That's probably my reaction. Yeah, I have no control over that. So that's probably necessarily not the best body language I've had in a team meeting, as it was being introduced to us that we were going to be a part of.
You're concerned about the competitive aspect and how it could interfere with your ability to prepare?
For me, I'm not going to let any of that affect how I prepare, how I talk in our meetings, how we want to get things done, and what we want to do. I'm going to be myself, and I think the guys are going to do their best to be themselves as well. Although it is different when there is a camera, there while you're trying to do something, that's very private. So, I'm sure that our PR team will do their best, to help, keep a lot of us out of trouble. So.
I mean, I want to get, because that's where I'm kind of at with this. Richmond, let's start with you again. I mean, because you've been in that locker room. Like, see, that's the thing, too. And BallGame, too, you've coached these kids, too. And, I mean, I've been around players, too. He's not wrong. As soon as he said that, I'm like, you're right. There's at least always going to be one guy that everyone likes. But when that camera flips on, they're going to see a different side of that guy. And they're going to be like, yo, what is this right now? Like, it's just destined to happen. What are you guys? I haven't got your thought. I played that clip, but I really haven't got your guys' thoughts or talked to you about now that we're getting into Hard Knocks. I mean, we all remember back when we did it. What was that, 2008, 2009? I mean, or whenever it was. I mean, whatever. I mean, that was a brutal. Anyways, with Tannehill's rookie year or whatever. Let's start with you, Richmond. What are your thoughts on this whole Hard Knocks in season? Like, when did this start? This whole in season? Is this something new? Like, I've never even heard of this. And man, I get it that we're the Cinderella story with our offense, but I just feel like this is the type of stuff where you got a good thing going. Who the hell okayed this?
I don't know. I feel like Tua, like it's different. Like I would say during training camp, but they have too much access, too many cameras, too many live mics around, and you always got to be careful what you say, what you do. It's kind of like we do this show, and sometimes we backstage, we talk about stuff. Well, we feel comfortable joke, because that's how we do with each other. But and it's kind of like being in the locker room. We could be talking about something, somebody over here, they catch it, and if they put it out there, it could change the whole perception of either me, you, or BallGame. We could be just joking, but what we take as a joke, a lot of people be like, "Oh, it's this cancel culture is serious. I don't like it." I'm just glad I ain't have to deal with it, but I'm with Tua all day long on that. I'm like, especially like it's different. Like during training camp, this and that. Now the season, every one of these games counts. So now you got to worry about this or saying something. I don't know how they're gonna have access because normally you do your game plan and this and that. I'm wondering what footage are they gonna show, this and that. It's just like I don't know who agreed to this or whatever, but I don't see it as a good idea because it's enough trying to worry about people stealing your signals and all that. I'm like, man, I don't know who came up with this, but if you really think about it, people want more and more access. The more access they can get, this and that. So this is probably a pilot. If it works, they might have next season, they might have somebody at the start of the season go about midway and then pick up another season. It's all about money with NFL. It's not about, sometimes what you feel, this and that, blah, blah, blah. But I don't like it at all. I don't. I'm glad I didn't have to deal with that because as soon as you walk in the building, you're looking around and see, okay, where they at? This and that is just. I'm glad I don't have to deal with it. I'm with Tua on this one. He hit the nail on the head. It's just everybody's going to be kind of walking on pins and needles. Like that's the way I see it. A couple people won't, but most people will.
When it's like the most relaxed culture there probably is, right? Let's hear your thoughts, BallGame.
I think it's crap, to be honest with you. Only because the locker room is a space where those guys actually get to completely just release and be themselves prior to having to go out there and, have all eyes and, all access on them. And, now you got these cameras going to be running around in folks' faces and they can't actually be their genuine, authentic selves. And it just creates a whole nother level of anxiety and stress that this team is already dealing with enough stress trying to stay ahead or match the expectations of, what they've set for themselves and what others have set for them in terms of how far they can go. And now you gotta walk on, like Richmond said, pins and needles. I think it's the dumbest thing ever because it's not, it's another management situation that your young coach has to deal with and has to endure because of the fact that they want ratings or they want to have all this extra stuff going on that's really and truthfully, in my opinion, not even necessary. But, at the same time, they'll say it's a good thing for the league, not necessarily realizing that it's going to, adversely, to some degree, adversely affect the team if they allow it to. That's the key. It's the big if they allow it to, because it's hard sometimes not to fall into the traps of the social media stuff because now it's more access, more people going to watch it, more people going to have opinions about things, and more stuff's going to be said about these players. They're human beings, man. And at the end of the day, I don't think anyone should have to endure sitting through situations and circumstances that is going to make them uncomfortable. And a lot of these guys don't play the game for no other reason other for the love of it. They don't care about the fame. Like Siler still lives in this trailer, all this stuff, even the money they paid.
Tua doesn't care about it.
It's so simple.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of these guys don't care about any of that. And now they got to be on alert. And, you got to really, like he said he won't change what he's saying in his meetings, but you're going to have to some degree because you can't just talk open. You can't talk open dialogue because now somebody else watching it might hear what you're saying. And now they done took your signals and took your information and they use it against you. So it's going to change him, even though he doesn't want it to change him. You see what I'm saying?
See,
it's just too much, in my opinion, especially at a critical point in the season. I hate it. I don't like it.
You kind of said a key thing there, and it made me think. Like you said, they'll want it because they'll say it's good for the league, but is it good for the team? You know what I'm saying? Like they don't take that into factor, right? They don't care about that. They don't care if it's good for the players of the team. It's what you said. They care about the bottom line, right? They care about the payola, right? So
that's it. If they care about the team, then they wouldn't have shitted us like they did on Sunday.
There you go. Real talk. Interesting. Guys, I don't know if you had a chance to see this, but I'll play it for you. Check in what Kyle Van Noy said today on a podcast. Yeah, talks about the quote-unquote civil war between Brian Flores, Chris Grier, and Tua Tagovailoa.
I believe I was just in the middle of a civil war, they call it, between like the GM and the head coach. And that's like going on, the power struggles that you don't see behind closed doors. Yeah. And it was kind of him like, oh, this was your guy? Well, see ya. Another thing down there that happened was some players were talking to the media about Tua and blah, 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 blah. And a lot of people thought it was me.
Yeah.
And then
I heard
people don't know this, but me and Tua are close. Like I know Tua, and like for me to like go to like one of the beat writers seems like that's crazy to me. And a lot of like people down there thought I was like feeding these beat writers information, which is like, what? I know some players, that's what they do. Yeah. Like, I think it's crazy to do that in general, but it's not something I would do. So that pissed me off that like some people started that rumor. And then after I got cut, they asked me about like Brian Flores. And then literally like 2 hours after that, someone sent me a news article that came out saying like I was a bad captain, I was a bad teammate, X, Y, and Z. And I was just them trying to like cover themselves of why they cut me, I guess. I don't know. But I believe I was just.
Gentlemen, let's break this down right here. We got confirmation of that Civil War. I remember years ago, BallGame, I went live with you and I believe Damien at the time, and I broke that all this was going on behind the scenes and that before we got into training camp and stuff that year, heading into Brian's. That was crazy. And then now you sit here and look at this gentleman. Not only does he say admit players were going, players were talking, and I believe Vince Beagle was one of them. I always have. Players were going and talking. I think Byron Jones was the other one. The person who said we're wasting years. I think that was Byron Jones. And you had players going there. Yeah, you had players going there. And Kyle Van Noy then talks about the access that team and that coaching staff had to the media, because I thought they let their guys go to the media and smear Tua like Byron Jones and Vince Beagle. But look at that. They actually used a smear campaign on Kyle Van Noy to kind of, rub his reputation through the mud a little bit there as a veteran. I mean, let's start with you, BallGame, as a former coach. How do you, and you now knowing the dynamic of all that, how do you see that? I mean, that's crazy, because we all thought Kyle Van Noy was Brian Flores' boy, and clearly that was not the case when he came here.
Well, I think there's always ways to understand if a coach is truly authentic and genuine about his feelings for you, and a lot of that revolves around him engaging you in activities and places outside of the workplace, right, where you get to hang out and be not coach and player type situations. I don't think at any point anybody got an invite to Flores' house. So if Kyle unfortunately believed that him and Brian Flores was cool, then I think that was a mistake on his part, because I think that dude has always been about what's best for self and how to elevate himself and do those type of things. Because at the end of the day, he said himself he's a very private person, doesn't have a real big, huge circle of friends. So like I don't see that. But to have a smear campaign, that's nothing new. I would never do that. I've never done that to a player. If I had ever had a player that was transferring from our school to another location and the coach called and asked me about that player, I gave an honest assessment of who the kid was, because I always want all my players to be the best versions of themselves, whether they played for me or not. I never rooted for a kid's downfall. I thought that was like always the worst type of thing, because as a coach, you're not only invested in what the player can do for you, but how well you can develop that player to be a better version of himself, for the organization, for his family, those type of things, right? Coach is nothing more than basically a mentor. And to be a true mentor, you got to be able to see and want the best for the person outside of what they can do for you. And I just don't believe that when Brian was down in Miami, it was about anything else other than elevation for himself. Now, maybe over the course of what's transpired for him, he's changed his tunes a bit, maybe, but it's hard sometimes when you're deeply rooted into the ego side of being a coach to change. But if you come in genuine, it's a lot harder for all of that other stuff to change who you are. You don't get corrupted as fast. But think about it. Bill was up there negotiating contracts in New England, and when players were talking about what they made, he cut them. You know what I'm saying? So who he learned it from? You learned it from you learn. You are kind of what you have access to and what you've seen the most. So I hold him accountable for what he did, but at the same time, I think it's horse. I always think it's bush league when organizations go after a player after the player's been gone for you, and you go out and say something completely contrary to who that person has been and what the league knows that person has been and how that person has been in any spot that he's been at. So I didn't feed much into that. I'm like you. I thought it was Vince Beagle all along. I knew that Byron Jones was heavily under the arm of Flores, so he didn't have any reason to really support Tua. And I just think when you look back over it all and you break it all down, right, they were going to definitely be looking to get rid of anybody that had any alliances to Tua, because Brian wanted to have Tua isolated. I think the ultimate goal was to have him isolated to the point that he stopped believing in himself so much that he didn't want to be there anymore, which gave them a reason to say, okay, we can get rid of him now because he quit on us.
Yeah.
That's what I believe.
And that's why they tried to get rid of
his-
X because I kept telling people X did not like Brian Flores, and X was a big supporter of Tua. So,
Yeah.
you know, it makes sense of why they started turning on X a little bit too, right?
Right.
Richmond, what are your
Thank
thoughts
God
on?
Grier didn't get involved in that shit.
Yeah, I know. What are your thoughts on this whole situation?
Yeah, I think I think BallGame hit some great points, but when he was saying he felt like he was in the middle of a war, I don't think it was necessarily directed at him, but I think he could see the tension between Grier and Flores, and he could see easily that Flores really didn't like Tua, or he probably preferred someone else, but Grier probably preferred Tua. And so, what do you do if you're the head coach and you don't really like that player? Then you're gonna try to put him in a position to fail. And like BallGame said, you want it to where it's not fun to a player be like, man, I don't want to be here no more. You know, tell your agent, man, try to get me out of here because man, I ain't doing. You know, it's messing with your mental too much, and you know, it just makes sense why, and that's why I question. Even when I think it was Tua's rookie year, we were kind of on a little winning streak, and all of a sudden they made the switch to start Tua, and I'm like, okay, this kid just came off a hip injury. Is he ready? Is he? It just seemed really rushed quick to me, and I'm like, what's the rush? We winning. It's not like we wasn't winning, and it was a need to pull the trigger to throw him in the fire. I just never understood that, and even with I think Chan Gailey was the offensive coordinator. He seemed like he preferred.
And he never got told. He found out through the media that they're making a switch. He wasn't even in on the meeting.
Yeah, so it's just it was just.
And then he came out and said, "I came here to coach Fitzpatrick. I didn't." He basically admitted in so many words said, "I didn't come here to groom a new quarterback." Right?
Yeah.
So, Greg Sosa says, "What up, guys? Do you think we should try and make a trade at linebacker or try to grab some help on someone that can help the O-line? Any suggestions?" Well, I'll tell you what. Tomorrow I'll be live at 5 p.m. with Neil Driscoll, and the main theme of tomorrow's show is going to be trade deadline targets for the Miami Dolphins. He's going to give 10. I'm going to give 10. So we'll give you a comprehensive list of guys we like at the trade deadline tomorrow. So be sure to tune in tomorrow night at 5 o'clock for the return of Fin Too Deep, because we were off last week with Neil out. So, gentlemen, I want to get your thoughts, you know, as we head into the Patriots game here. Second time around facing this team, we saw Belichick throw everything in the kitchen sink in week 1 at us. So I want to get your guys' thoughts on the Patriots Dolphins matchup, and give me your score predictions as well in there. Richmond, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think he's going to do it again. Like BallGame said it at the beginning of the show, this is a division game. You know, the Eagles were an NFC team, but, you know, division games count, to me, 2-1. So you want to win your division. We're still in a good spot, and, you know, they're coming off a couple of wins, and they want to try to get back in the hunt. So I don't see anything different. He's going to throw everything he's got to possibly try to come in here and, you know, get an upset, get a win, and try to keep that momentum going for New England. But I feel good about this game. I think we kind of get back on track and return to the offensive production we've been doing over the last few weeks. So my score prediction will probably be 28-17, maybe. I'm gonna give them 17 points, but 28-31, somewhere in there. I think we score somewhere in there. Yeah, Belichick, I wouldn't expect anything less. And then I know it's a thorn in his side that he hadn't beaten the Dolphins in the last few outings, this and that. And I know he's definitely not happy about that. So he definitely wants to try to turn that around.
Well, one thing too, after the game, players were telling Marcel Louis-Jacques that they're mad and they feel bad for the next team they're about to face. So, BallGame, what are your thoughts on this? JC Jackson has been playing at a pretty high level for them since they brought him back to New England. Tyreek's out. What are your thoughts on this matchup? What's your score prediction? How do you see this going for the Patriots and the Dolphins?
He's one guy, and although he kind of feels a lot out there in California, so J.C. Jackson is an afterthought to me at this point. He went back to familiarity, so I guess Bill's not asking him to do things outside of his skill set, which means it's kind of limited. But like I said before, I believe in this wide receiving core that we have, so I'm not really concerned about their secondary. I think where it comes down for me is how physical we're going to be able to be on the offensive line against their defensive front. That's where the questions lie for me, because that's where we're banged up at the most. Our guys on defense up front, I think, are going to be able to give their guys fits this time around. Seems like our guys have accepted the pill of physicalness and ferocity and just utter chaos, and they are out there actively hand fighting and bullying teams' offensive line. So defensively up front, I think we're going to win that matchup, but I don't know. My concern is our offensive line and who they're going to be able to get up front to hold that thing together against their defensive front. Mac Jones is Mac Jones. I'm not impressed. Still not. McCorkle doesn't scare me. So I think our defense can do a lot of things special against him to be able to limit him. Wide receiver wise, Thornton would have been a guy that I thought they would have unleashed, but they still haven't figured out a way to get him into the rotation. So it's the tight end game for them. Stop Hunter Henry and stop Jonnu Smith, and then the rest of the game becomes a lot simpler. So we just got to do a better job in that. Hopefully Long is back. Hopefully Long is, I don't know what his situation, I don't know what his status is. But that guy's been definitely so we'll see how that goes. Aside from that, if I beat you, I kind of got an idea of how I beat you, and I can beat you different ways because I've done it successfully now at this point in many different ways. So the onus is on Bill to prove that he can beat us. And I'm glad that the players said that they, saying whoever we got to play after that game on Sunday, they're going to, because you need to be pissed. I hope Mike gave them an additional day off just so they could reflect. Okay, there we go. So I'm hoping Mike gave them an additional day off, right? So they could rest up. That was a physical game on Sunday, right? And if they can come out and give any effort remotely close to what we got on Sunday, defensively and from the offense, once they got into a rhythm, then we'll win the game handily. And I'm gonna say 31-17. I still believe we can hit our 30 plus point mark, and I don't see the offense being able to really. I'm just not impressed, right? I mean, I know they won a big game this past weekend, but every team has a bad game, so and somebody got to win. So I'm not really impressed. So I'm not really that concerned with the Patriots at this point. He hasn't given me a reason to be overly impressed.
All right.
So.
Final thoughts here. I want to get quickly start with you, Richmond. You look at Robert Hunt right there. In pass protection, he has 247 snaps, 0 pressures. He only has 3 pressures allowed and 0 sacks allowed so far this season. One of the things I was worried about heading into this year was you got to take care of your own. You got to get out of the curve on some of these guys. Are you fearful that the Miami Dolphins are going to lose Robert Hunt in the long term here because this guy's now starting to play at that all-pro level we all knew he had in him?
I sure hope not. I think you could really solidify that right side. I mean, the way Jackson is playing, when you get 2 guys just having that type of success or playing that well side by side, you want to try to secure that. So with him having the type of season he's having, I would say if you could do it, maybe by December. I'm hoping they already done called his agent and say, hey, we want to try to get something done this year where we can kind of roll it, part of it into this year and lower the cap rather than let him just ball all the way out and then the number shoots way up. We've seen that from the previous year. Some of the guys we didn't sign or whatever. And, not only you got him, but you got Tua, you got several guys that you got to take care of. So if you can knock a couple of these guys out now, get them under contract, this and that, rather than letting them have the type of year that you see they're having, and then say, okay, like I've heard both of you guys, you can save $3 or $4 million. If you can do that, roll it in now and get it done. It's just smart. So I think he's proven that. He's been on the trajectory since he's gotten. He's continued to get better, and better. This is a guy that you developed, this and that. You got to keep him. So I sure hope they get this worked out. Don't wait till the last minute on that.
Yep.
BallGame, you got like a minute. Go ahead. Your thoughts on Robert Hunt?
I think, they got to get it done, man. He's been the most consistent lineman that we drafted. And God knows how long. You can't let a guy like that get out of your. You can't let him get out of your organization. Do what you got to do to get the money right, so that he can be a fixture on your line for years to come. He's proven it.
Yeah.
He was not as highly touted as a lot of other guys. Came from a very small school, but he's played big and great, better than any of the other guys that went ahead of him. So yeah, get him paid.
Yeah. Other than Laramie Tunsil, it's Grier's biggest hit easily on the offensive line. Guys, smash that like button. Subscribe if you are new. I want to take a chance and thank all the channel members, all the Patreon supporters. You guys make it possible that how we grow this channel, how we do it over here. I want to thank each and every one of you for constantly supporting. We had a lot of donations tonight. I want to thank everyone for donating. Guys, if you can't donate, it's fine. Just smash the like button. It's free. Takes 2 seconds and it helps us out. So smash the like button, subscribe if you are new. As man, we have been blowing up this week and we are steadily on the way. Go to vibesmiami.com, use code reason 15% off right now for your gear. I'm going to be live tomorrow with Neil Driscoll. We are going to look at top trade deadline targets for the Miami Dolphins, because the trade deadline is only 6 days away. Right now, it's coming up fast. And man, there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to talk about because there are some areas of needs. This team could use some reinforcements heading into the latter half of the season. So we'll talk about a lot of that tomorrow. Make sure you tune in. Smash the like button on the way out. We appreciate each and every one of you for coming through. As always, it's a blessing to do this show with you, gentlemen. It's always a pleasure. And fins up. All day, every day. We will see all y'all on the next one. Take it easy, guys.